I already said that before we started, but I just want to make that, really clear that I'm here for you. I have a notification on my screen. I need to get rid of that. And I'm really passionate about what I do, and I may seem a little quirky to you at times because I approach natural dyeing as an artist and also as a kind of a therapy play situation for myself. I love to experiment, and I will often grab plants that I see, identify them to make sure that there isn't anything toxic that I'm going to be boiling up, and then see if it can be a dye. I will often research it to see if anybody else has tried it, what their responses were, and go from there on trying to create a dye. What I am not is a production dyer. I leave that to the folks who have that kind of a brain power. I will do small batches for people who ask me for a particular shade they might have seen me do. I keep extensive notes so I can, to the best of natural dye's abilities, recreate a dye. Although we can talk more about that later. But I am, I'm not opposed to acid dyes. I think they are gorgeous and beautiful. And I support all kinds of dyers out there. But for me, I'm just captivated with natural dyes, and I love what I'm doing. So I hope that I can infuse a little bit of my enthusiasm in you and give you permission and license to play with your plants and see what you can create. There's so many techniques in the natural dye world that I think we are put off by because the terms or the extra steps. But if you have the time and you have your wool or your yarn that you can spare in case you don't like it when it comes out, then I encourage you to grab your plants, dry them, and use them when you have time to make a dye, and then see if that kind of leads you to the next step. Maybe then you want to modify that dye with some natural type minerals or elements, and then see if maybe the different color appeals to you even more. So I basically look at this the same way I used to look at paper crafts. It's not the end of the world if you get something that you don't love, and you can probably over dye it. So, if you can come up with a shade and it maybe just isn't really speaking to your heart, you can then use that as a base color and put something else in with it. So for instance, maybe your yellow came out way brighter than you like it, or way lighter than you like it, and you don't have any more material to make it darker. But maybe you can over dye it with a different dye, and you'll have that yellow base, and you might even get like a really pretty green by having that yellow underneath. So with that, I'm going to show you some of the things here on my table. I'm going to pick up this little tripod and move you around because I want to show you some of the samples I laid out, and then we'll go over to my stove and I'll show you some of the dyes I created today for you. Okay, so let me see. Hopefully I won't disconnect us by doing this. So there we go. All right, I got it. I think I got it. Yes. Okay, so let me step back so you can see this little display here. Some of the plants that you can grow in your own garden and get colors from. The first one is my favorite. It's madder root. And madder root is, let's see, these little stick-like things. Oh, I did put some out here on the table so I can actually show you what they look like. This is my favorite dye because it's very versatile. As you can see, all of these shades were created from madder. So let me see if I can get this. I hope I'm not making anybody motion sick. So all of these were created starting with madder. Some of them had iron added, some had washing soda, some had iron. Did I say iron already? Calcium carbonate, copper. All of those will shift your color. So you could actually do like a whole gradient with just different dye pots, modified madder. So that's why I love it so much. Another flower that you can grow that I haven't had any luck growing is Coreopsis. This is a great dye. It looks like a yellow flower, but excuse me for having a little brain flip here, but I can't remember what color it is when it's used, but sorry about that, but I'll look it up for you. Marigolds, here's a nice yellow from marigolds. I save them all year long. Here's one of the gallon size Ziplocs half full from marigolds from last year that I haven't finished with yet. Some people pull the petals out. I don't. I just dry them just like this and use them in the dye bath that way. It's up to you. If you pull the petals out and just use the petals, you'll get a little bit less complicated yellow. It'll be a little more pure, but I don't have any problem with the color that comes from using the seed pod and the petals. Okay, my favorite of these yellows, dandelion. Here's my big jar from this spring. Now I will tell you that this was probably 3 36-inch long trays of dandelions, but when they're dried, they really shrink down, and they're in a quart jar. So they're really fun. I will say though that dandelion is probably a lighter yellow than any of the other yellows. So sometimes I modify it by adding a little bit of weld. This is one that you can grow in your garden. I did not grow this because I should probably just confess that y'all might be great gardeners, but I am not. I have tried to grow weld, but Botanical Colors has come out with a nice line of dried flowers, and so I've been supporting them. But this is weld. It's very intense, right? Sometimes I add a little bit of this or a little bit of marigolds to my dandelion collection to just kind of get a little bit more color in there. All of these things down here are things that I saved over the year. So I got a bag of zinnia flowers. They're going to give you also kind of a murky yellow, but you can easily modify it. It's a great start to get a nice green. And by getting green from a yellow, I know even though these are purple, they're not going to give you purple. But if you add just a little tiny, like half teaspoon of iron to your dye bath, you will turn your yellows to greens. Kind of a fun trick. Hibiscus, Rose of Sharon, Rose Mallow, whatever you want to call the different varieties of this plant. These are freshly dried. They're not 100% dry yet. But you can buy hibiscus petal tea, and it's the same thing. So you're going to get a real nice mauvey pink. So here's 3 different grades of that. It doesn't look to me like it's showing up very pretty with the light, but it's a really pretty mauve pink. And then if you grow onions, I'm going to include this in garden dyes. Sometimes I include it in kitchen dyes when I'm talking. Save your onion peels, your onion skin, the dry outer cover. Here are some of the colors that I've gotten from onion. This is on gray. Whoops, where am I? There it is. This is a gray yarn over dyed with onion. And it's like a really pretty yellowy green. Here's regular straight onion. And this one is modified with some iron. So it got a little darker. So that's really pretty. So if you're growing onions, and some people are super good at growing onions and they get a great return harvest, that's a great way to use them up. One of the ones that kind of shocked me when I took a class once was rosemary. If you are, you know, an herbalist, love to grow your herb garden, look at that beautiful yellow you can get from rosemary. When we did this in the class, we had 2 big sprigs of, or big packs like you buy at the grocery store of herbs. So that's how much we used in the dye pot for the rosemary. Okay, let's go over here and talk about a couple other ones. This is mint. And I grow a lot of mint because a lot of my animals love to munch on mint, so I grow it for them. This was an overgrown big stalk I pulled out of the garden. But we also have a wild mint called Perilla frutescens. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I use it a lot to make these deep greens. It's just the same process of turning any yellow, murky garden dye in or forage dye into green. Is just you're going to boil your plant, simmer your plant material, and then strain it out, and then add a little iron, and your yarn will change miraculously from a not very attractive yellow, to be honest, to this really pretty foresty green. I love it. And then we have indigo, which a lot of people will like to start growing. Now, I have a hard time on my porch with the lighting showing the actual color of this. It's a very, I would say, celery shade of green. This was from the ice water bath method of indigo dye. So it's not the fermented process that you get the dark blue. Let me go over here. Sorry if I just whipped that camera around too fast. This is an indigo. This is probably a triple dip. It's really dark. And that's what you do if you take your fresh indigo and ferment. You'll get those nice deep blues, but you can also just do a quick ice water bath and get a celery shade. It's a really pretty shade when it comes out of the dye bath, but it immediately starts to change over, which is the, you know, the oxidation that indigo is famous for. So anyway, those are some of the samples I have out here. You'll see them hanging. I have them hanging all over here. I have a lot of samples. So these are all different. Some of these, the purple is logwood. The reds are probably, I can't see the tag from here, but probably either cochineal or lac. And then I've got some blues over here, which are combinations. So I have a lot of fun, and I just kind of sometimes decorate my house with yarn dye. So let's get me turned back around so we can move forward here. There's a view of my trees. Okay, I'm back. All right. So today I did a couple dye pots for you so that you could see the yarn actually being transformed. I did madder because I would like to show you how to modify it. And I did a pot of weld, which is a beautiful yellow that I showed you. And we can also put the weld and the madder together and see what kind of color we get from those two mixed together. So the first step when you're dyeing, when you're getting your natural dyes ready, and I'm not going to talk too much about equipment because I don't want to take up the time explaining all the equipment that you need for natural dyeing. It's nothing fancy for the most part. I do use a camp stove now because it's a lot faster. You can use a hot plate. Some things do put off unpleasant fumes when they're simmering, so I don't do a lot of dyeing in my kitchen unless it's a food item like black beans or onion skins. I don't think they're a problem to use in the kitchen, but a lot of the plants that I pick up out of the yard or forage for in the woods, I don't like to cook them in my kitchen because I'm not really sure what kind of smell I'm going to be breathing in. So anyways, I'm not going to go over a whole lot of that. You want to use stainless steel. I will tell you that. You want to have a good kitchen scale. I just use an inexpensive digital scale. I got mine off of Amazon. I think it was $10. And, you know, I have various old spoons and stirring implements that I use, strainers. I have some old things that I've just put over here. If you use aluminum pans, you are adding another modifier to your dye pot. So you're going to get different colors than you might expect because the aluminum in the pans will leach into your dye pot. So if you want that, that's fine. But most people say don't use aluminum, and that's why. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is decide what kind of yarn you're dyeing. So the reason I bring this up is I know that we're a wool group, but you know that also encompasses alpaca, mohair, and silk is also considered an animal fiber. Your pet hairs also, but I have no experience dyeing pet hairs, so I can't help you with that. You can also do natural dyes on your fiber. I would suggest scouring it first so that your dyes will stick nicely to the fibers. But you need to pick that. I don't have any extensive at all experience using cotton or linen for natural dyes, but there are plenty of great people out there doing a lot of work with cottons and linens. I would say Suzanne Deckel is a great person to follow if you're interested in cotton and linen, plant fibers. And then Rebecca Desnos is another person who I greatly admire their work. So I can't probably answer a lot of questions on your cotton fibers, but we're here to talk about wool anyway, so we won't worry about that. Let me grab one thing to show you. Okay. One thing I discovered that I hadn't expected is superwash yarn and natural dyes. Superwash is, you're familiar with that, I'm sure. What I didn't expect and didn't realize is superwash will give you much more vibrant colors in the dye pot, even with your natural dyes. So if you are going to dye yarns and you know it's a superwash, just be prepared. If you're trying for a softer color, you might want to go on the lower end of the recommended amount and not the higher end. These are mini skeins. I do a lot of dye work, especially test dyes with mini skeins. I do sell these in my Etsy shop because I want to encourage people to try dyes, and a lot of people don't want to put the money into buying a kilo bag of bare yarn. So I sell these in small quantities on my Etsy shop for that reason, because I just want people to feel encouraged and supported. One thing that I want to say to you is these skeins are twisted and they're very tight where the, let's see, where's the, trying to find the camera. Okay. See how very tight that is there where the skein was tied together? You want to loosen that before you do your dye work, because it's kind of choking the fibers and you're not going to get a consistent dye. So It's just a little tip that I like to throw out there now because I've already made that mistake myself. So I want to just share that with you. Anyway, so this is a worsted mini skein. It's 20 grams. I think it said 50 yards. It's a pretty standard mini skein. And I use these a lot. So that's what I'm using today. I just wanted to show you that. The next thing you're going to do is after you decide on your yarn and you've got your skeins tied and ready to go in the dye pot is you're probably, even though they're tied, it's really helpful to have them controlled some other way. Now there's two methods that I like. One is zip ties. I know that we're all supposed to be trying to use less plastic, but these things are quick and easy so that you can do that. So now my yarns are, I'm able to grab something. I also use these metal dye rings so that I can just reach in the pot, grab the dye ring and pull the yarn out without it getting all tangled up. I have seen these skeins, especially with the mini skeins, like actually like intertwine, and it's like such a mess in there when you're trying to sort out your dye. So the reason I don't put the metal rings, if you are somebody who uses metal rings already, I don't like to put them right up against the yarn because I have had them discolor, even though I've wiped them off. There's some kind of metallic interaction going on with certain dyes, and I've had them leave spots. So I no longer just hook the yarn right onto the ring. I like to have this or a piece of yarn or twine, something happening in between. Okay. Now you're going to gather up all your dye material, and you're going to figure out how much you need. I've written a lot of recipes on my website, so I'm happy to give them all away for free because I just want people to enjoy this as much as I do. I do have a book that came out, which has 15 very specific recipes in it. It's a workbook. You can record your own results in here. I highly recommend that you have a dedicated notebook, either this or just a plain composition book that you write your dye formulas down in, because if you want to try them again, I can guarantee you will not remember what you did. So for instance, today I did the weld. Weld is one, even when it's dry, you're going to need a fairly good percentage of it. So I did I did 60 grams of wool at 50%. So I needed 30 grams of weld, dried weld. Okay, so fresh, I would need more, probably 1 to 1 if I was going to use it fresh from the garden, because you got a lot of moisture in there that you have to account for. So what I do to measure out my dyes is just use a little container, tear out the scale and put it in here. And then I'm going to show you what I do after that. Let me see. I don't know if can you see that from here? I use these little laundry bags or something. Laundry bags or a little cotton bag to put the plant material in. It just makes it a little bit less messy. So nothing's left in my dye pot. I can pull this out when I put the yarn in, or if I want to, I can leave it just sitting on the bottom and continuing to make more dye as I go along. I do it both ways, just depending on my mood. If you just put it in there, you can just go ahead, you know, when your dye is ready, you can just go ahead and strain it out using some sort of strainer that's appropriate for whatever you made your dye with. The madder roots are all packed in this little cloth bag, And we've got that. All right. So I keep a lot of mason jars handy so I can check my color, because you can see, like, you're looking down into a pot, it just looks dark. Let's see. So this is the madder. So I'm sorry, I keep forgetting which side the camera is on. So it's really pretty. It's a nice dark red right now. It's not going to dye red though. Not right away. And then the weld is extremely yellow. Oh dear. Yes, I do stick my hands in boiling water. So this is a very dark yellow. So we have good dye going here. All right. So Marion, let's ask for any questions for real quick before I start with the yarn, because then I'm gonna go over to this side.
Okay, well, I have a question. How long do you cook your plant material before you put in the yarn?
I try to do, I'll tell you what I like to do with some of them, like madder, especially madder root, because it's kind of hard and very crusty. I like to soak it the night before. And just soak it. You know, you can soak it in a bucket, it doesn't matter. Put it in your bag that you're going to use to make your dye and just let it soak. That'll soften it up so that when you go to simmer it the next day to make your dye, it's going to be a little bit quicker process and everything's kind of ready to go. But I didn't do that yesterday because I was really tired of being outside. So I started early this morning. I got this started probably around, I don't know, 10 o'clock. So it's been in the works for a few hours, but it really didn't need that much time. I was ready by 12:30 with the dye. It's just kind of been continuing here while we've been chatting. The weld doesn't take any time at all. I actually did that really late in the game as I was getting ready. I was like, oh no, I forgot to do the weld. So that one's a lot quicker. Marigold, onion, all of those. The yellows are usually pretty quick to develop. When I do a mint dye, like that green I showed, I will usually soak that because I want it to really give me a lot of color out of there. I want as deep of a yellow as I can so that I can then transform it into that deep green and not a light green. So I kind of just play around. They're all a little different. And as nature is, you just have to kind of find what works best. But I will always happily share if I have tried any plant. I'm always happy to tell you, you know, that one I start the night before, that one I start right away. It doesn't matter. A lot of the dye books that are out besides mine will also tell you. And beware, because some of the natural dyes will take weeks to develop, like oak bark and acorns. You have to soak those for at least a number of days before you start to make your dye liquid. So I was just like with any other recipe, I guess it pays to read the whole recipe before you get all set up to go.
Fair enough.
Somebody had a question about mint. I saw it flash up, but it's gone now.
Here's the question. It's from Julie Garman. It said, with mint, does it help to mash it to bring out the plant material?
It doesn't hurt to mash it as long as, you know, you're either going to strain out all the little bits that you're creating or you have it in a bag. It won't hurt it to mash it. You won't do any harm by squishing it. I squished the weld for a few minutes because, you know, like I said, I was late getting that one going and I wanted to make sure that it was ready to release everything. So I squished it for a while just to kind of get it when the water was still okay for me to put my hand in.
Other questions?
Yeah. Is there anything else in your dye bath besides, at this point, besides the plant material itself and water?
There is nothing else in there at this point, just water and the plant. The only one that I will add anything else to is when I'm doing pokeberry, but that's a whole different process than most of your other dyes. So, you know, we can discuss that one as a separate topic if we get that far today. That one is just like throw all the rules about natural dyeing out the window if you're going to play with pokeberry, because it will not work the same way. Now your mordants can change, and that will give you some different results. You know, if you prefer to do an iron bath mordant, you might be able to skip that whole add extra iron phase, you know, at the end. Like you might be modifying right from the very start. Some people, I use alum almost exclusively. Some people like to go even more natural than that and go with like rhubarb leaf, any of your metallics. Trying to think what else people sometimes, oh, sumac, not poison sumac, regular sumac, can be a mordant. Basic, and tea and coffee can also be mordants. Like if you want to mordant in a coffee and tea bath and then over dye that brown, that light tan color, that's kind of a fun experiment to do too, because you're starting with a whole different shade than the off-white bare wool. So I hope that answered your question. All right. Okay, good.
One
All
other
right, so
have you soaked the wool
yeah,
before you dye it? You soak the wool before
I
you
do.
Okay.
Most of the time I will soak my leave, I will do the mordant phase the night before. I'll get the this is my usual sequence of events. If I know I'm going to be dyeing the next day, I will get my yarn out and I will get my mordant bath ready. I'll weigh everything out and I'll put the yarn in with the mordant solution and then get the heat up to boiling, simmer it for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, turn the heat off, put the lid on, and walk away from it. So now the next day, my yarn is thoroughly soaked and mordanted, and I don't have to go back and re-soak it. Now, if I don't get all of that used because I changed my mind on something, I'll dry it and put a tag on those skeins that they are already pre-mordanted or mordanted, and you don't have to mordant them again. You can just re-wet them. So I think that's something people often don't realize is that, you know, once it's got the mordant solution in it, just re-wetting it is all you need to do. So that was a great question. Okay, anybody else? Let's start making some color. Okay, so trying to see the best way, because I'm in my porch, which is about a, I don't know, 10 by 10 room. So I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing. This is the pot I used to mordant my yarn. And I did 240 grams of wool. I did it on 4 separate rings of 3 skeins each because I want to modify these, but I'm going to start them all.
We can't see it. You can't see the pot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I can't ever remember like where the camera is. Is that better?
That's
Basically,
good.
you're just, okay, you're just looking at yarn coming up out of a pot of mordant water. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to drip all my way over to, are we good? Let me know if we're not good. I'm new at this, trying to do it.
That's good.
Okay, so I put all of that in. I didn't take the bag of madder root out. It's still sitting here. Take it out, don't take it out. It's up to you. You will get some areas of deeper color where the yarn is sitting right next to that. That does not bother me. If that bothers you, then you will want to definitely take that bag of plant matter out. I kind of like it, but you know, again, I said I'm kind of like playing and doing artistic little thingies here, and that works for me. Okay. So all that in there, and we're going to cook that up. Okay, So I know it's like watching the pot boil because I really don't know what to tell you at this point. And the other thing that I just realized I did is I put all the yarn. You're gonna love this, Marion. You're gonna be like, she's crazy. I put all the yarn into the same pot. So now I have to get some more yarn ready for the weld bath. But that's okay because I have yarn, so we're good. Um, so
It's hard
yeah,
to do
only
on the
part.
fly.
I know. And when I talk, I don't think very well. So, not going to get Speaker of the Year awards probably, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm going to just go ahead and get this yarn ready for the weld bath, and I'll show you guys some of the things I've made with my natural dyed yarns. I get so much satisfaction out of knowing that the yarn came from the sheep that we care for, and that I then created the color a lot of times with plants that I find right here in our woods. So that just makes me very, very happy.
Janet, we have another question from Jillian.
Sure.
On black walnut. Can you use the nuts that are green, or do you have to wait for them to dry?
No, you want to use them green, Julie. They are, you don't have to break them open. You don't have to get your hands all black, but they do take up a considerable amount of space in your dye pot. So that's why a lot of people will take a hammer and like break them up. But it's the green hull, and it's the juicy green hull, because once they start to get dry, they lose their color intensity, and you're going to get a lot lighter color brown. And black walnuts, I don't know about you, but they're kind of prolific around here. Like, if you don't have one in your yard, you probably have a neighbor who has one, and that neighbor will probably be really happy for you to pick them up and do something with them, because otherwise you're kind of waiting for the squirrels to find them. But I do have some black walnuts coming on already this year. When I find them, I have this freezer sitting right here, and excuse me while I dive into my freezer. When I find some black walnuts laying on the ground that are nice and juicy, I pop them right into the Ziploc bag and pop them in the freezer until I want to use them. You don't even have to thaw them. You can just pop these right into the dye pot, heat it up, and then strain them out. Or leave them in if you want like some variegation in your yarn. So what I'm going to do while we're talking about other things is put this, I'm going to put this yarn in the mordant from yesterday and warm it up a little so that we can have some weld going on here too. Okay. So I'm just putting the weld down on the ground while I use the burner for the mordant. Okay, let's go over here. I'll show you some of my, let's see again here, we can. All right, are we there? We are. Okay, this is my little tray of, I don't know what you want to call it, tools of the trade. So I keep a lot of my dyes here, little ball of leftover yarn for tying skeins together for dyeing, some twine, some bags of onion skins. Talk about these for a minute. These are fun to play around with. These are also from Botanical Color, but they are concentrated natural dye liquid extracts. So you use a lot less. If you need a quick dye project, these are really fun. And they have a Saxon blue, which is an indigo form. So if you're trying to make a blue, this is a great quick way to make a blue. Not an indigo blue, but you can get a nice shade of blue from that. Anyway, they have a lot of different ones. Osage orange. You might have an Osage orange tree in your yard because they're actually pretty common in our area. And you don't have to chop away at the tree. You can, like, if a limb comes down or something like that, you can chop that up. This is actually like a sawdust. But I guess I should be honest. We have a sawmill. My husband's family is a sawmill business family for 4 generations. So we get a lot of different kinds of wood in. So I was happy to gather some of the Osage orange. And you would be surprised, this is a yellow. This is not an orange. I think they say that it's, I actually have some of it here. Sorry for the noise. I think they say that it's I think they called it Osage orange because the wood is kind of an orangey color, but the dye is a yellow, and it's a bright yellow. So if you like brights. Black beans. I love to do black beans. I don't think I showed you this when we were talking about my samples, but these are made with black bean. I think they're fabulous. I modified them with vinegar and washing soda, and this is the original black bean. So if you want to have a nice, I don't know, I look at them as my beachy trio. They just kind of remind me of the beach. What else do I have here? Oh, alkanet root. This is one that has to sit for a long time in the water before you make your dye bath. There's a project I'm working on right now. This is this was the mint green. Okay, I'm gonna dive deep now. Okay, this is how I work. I like to use everything. This started out as the dark green dye bath from the mint. It was the exhaust bath, and I added some of the Saxon blue liquid to it, which blued it up some. So it's kind of a really soft turquoise. And I don't know why, but this really attracted me, those two together. So I am testing out a friend's pattern with these two colors. I don't know. I just love little pops of unexpected there. This pattern, if you're interested in this pattern, it is live on Nay Rose Designs. She's on Etsy, Narose. So that's fun. Okay, some of the things I've done. Here is a shawl. This was all thin yarn, natural dyes, and crocheted by me. So it's actually probably one of my pride and joys, that little piece there. I love it. Here's another, I got on a shawl kick and couldn't stop. Oh, the shawl pattern here is from Montana Crochet. If you're looking for that, it's the Montana shawl. And this one is with madder, and it's an asymmetrical design from TL Yarnworks. This was our Advent project last year. These are all natural dyes. And everybody got a mini skein, and the main color was with cochineal dye. And so they just had to, Advents, they just had to follow the directions for every section. And that's what they got at the end. It was a lot of fun. I worked with a designer who goes under Otter Crafts, and she designed each section, and it just came together beautifully. She's brilliant. This little girl, let me show you. I love to play with amigurumi. So I took all my remnants from other projects that I had dyed and made this little bunny. So she was fun. And you can see she is actually wearing the same colors as the shawl. So I got to use up all the little bits. And then this was a crazy yarn. And Patty Sandville designed this little V wrap. I thought that was really fun too.
Jan,
So there's a lot of, yes.
we have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you're dyeing, do you keep the dye bath cooking or not?
I do, to a certain point. That's a good question. Let me, oh, now I've got you looking at the trees again. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I do keep it cooking. I like to use a cooking thermometer. See if I can, here it is. These long stem thermometers, you can find them. Well, I think the easiest place to find them is candy making supplies or beer vat supplies if you're brewing micro beers. So I usually try to keep my dyes from getting too hot, especially some of your reds will denature or fall apart if you use a really hard boil. So I try to keep my temperatures down to a medium simmer, just so that they aren't damaged. So yeah, that's a good point. Anybody have anything else? How many people have tried natural dyes already out there? Anybody? Yay.
A
What
little
did you try? A little bit?
I have
Did
a
you use
friend.
it?
I have a friend who grows indigo in her backyard and
Yeah.
had a lot of fun with indigo. It's a hell of a lot of work, but
It is.
because of all the different steps and processes
Mhm.
and stuff. But the first time I did it, it was so magical when you take it out of the dye bath and you take it outside and sort of,
No,
move it around to
I
get the
know.
oxygen through it, to watch it change color is magical. And
I agree.
we've done a few, I've done onion skin,
Mhm.
and I think we're gonna play with different flowers, marigold or, trying to remember the other one, but anyway, she's, it's really fun. I dye with her every summer and it's actually coming up. It's almost time to
Oh,
to
good.
be dying, so I'm looking forward to it. But it's always
Yeah.
interesting I haven't done a lot of the ones you've done and I'm, it's also interesting to hear you talk about what you don't do in your kitchen. We were working in her kitchen and she's now moved out of the kitchen. She's created a kind of a shed, a covered area outside. And we're in the Silver Spring, Tacoma Park area.
Okay.
So as long as it's not too gross and hot, we can do that.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's really good information. And I think it's oops, what did I do? Am I still here?
Yeah, you're
You
still
are.
here.
Okay.
Here are some wool samples that I've done in the last few weeks. A
Oh,
lot of
nice.
madder, some cochineal, some marigold. Really pretty. And it's
Yeah.
neat. The gray yarns do, yellow on a gray does make a really nice green.
Yeah, I love it. I have some gray sheep now, but I didn't have any until recently, and I can't wait to get the yarn back to try that.
Yeah, I was doing gray mohair yarn, so it works good on mohair too.
It does. Mohair dyes beautifully. So let me give you a little quick tour here of my studio since we were talking about that. Okay, so mine is my back porch. It's my husband and I now. Our kids are flown the nest, and so we have this porch, and because of the insects and all, we don't sit out here very much, even though it's screened. The mosquitoes seem to find their way. So I kind of took it over. I've got my stove there and a big work table. And Then on this side, I have a smaller work table. I have a hanging scale, which is antique. So I don't usually, I don't use it too much except for like an idea of how much yarn I might have or wool. But a bird built a nest here and she abandoned it because I think we scared her one day coming out of the house. I didn't know she was here. I had fleeces on this table that I was skirting, that I had, bags of fleeces, and she had pulled some of the wool up there. So I left it because I thought it was kind of cute, and I don't really use the scale for anything. But anyway, so this is my dye studio. We'll use that term, studio. Sounds really professional that way. See if I can get myself back now.
Takes the intimidation factor out of it. She's good.
Right. I would like to actually put up a building on our farm in the next year or so and have a school for fiber crafts. So that's my dream.
We have another question from Tracy Pearson. She wants to know if you've ever dyed Angora wool from rabbits.
I haven't, but I have seen naturally dyed Angora. I just don't have any Angora to dye. So yeah, that's definitely possible. I know I didn't mention Angora, but I should have. We have Pygora goats. I know Lisa has Angoras, and all of the protein fibers will work the same with the same method. So whether you're doing llama, alpaca, mohair, cashmere, whatever you have, and if you want to dye your dog's fur, go have fun with that.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I was really concerned. I've not dyed before, and I have multicolors with my rabbits. They're beautiful, but now I'd like to bring some more colors in besides the grays and the tans. But I didn't know if you had to modify the recipe or do anything different. Just because obviously it felt so easily if you if you do too much work with it.
No, you'll be fine. And with those base colors of the fiber, you'll have some gorgeous depth to the colors. That'll be really pretty. So good luck.
Thanks. I'm excited to try.
Yeah, I'm sorry I forgot to mention rabbits because they are a great fiber animal to keep if you don't have a lot of space, or if you're zoned where you can't have any livestock, because they're not considered livestock. So you could have, 20 rabbits running around your backyard, and it's just like you're just the crazy bunny lady, as opposed to the cat lady, but nobody's going to stop you unless the rabbits are eating their garden. So so it's a great way to get into fiber if you want to raise it from your own animals and go all the way through. What was that little trade kind of thing that was going on before COVID hit? I don't know. I was paired up with a lady once who does rabbit fiber, and she sent me the most beautiful skeins of yarn that she had harvested from her own rabbits, and a little bracelet that she had knit, and things were just lovely. So I'm so maxed out with just doing sheep and a bazillion chickens that I'm like, no, don't tell me anything else. I don't want to know.
Great.
But maybe, yeah, go ahead, Mary.
There's another question from Julie. When you're dyeing and some of the colors are on the brighter side, is there a way to tone them down for a softer color?
Yeah, iron will sadden your colors. So adding iron will always, it's called saddening, but it's really just a darkening, or what it does is iron adheres to the darker colors in that color and brings them out. So that's how your yellows from plants, you don't see the green that's in there, but the iron will adhere to the green that's already in there and bring it out. So that's the same kind of process that will work if you get a too bright of a pink or too bright of a yellow. You know, doing a little iron modifier will help that. What do you, Lisa, do you have anything that you have tried on that level when you've gotten a dye that was just way too hot to handle? Is she there? Oh,
Probably, yeah. If it's already on the yarn, it would be hard to take it out. So if you're worried, I would probably, you know, start on the low end and then add more until you get the color that you would like.
yeah, right.
Makes
Yeah, that's
sense?
always the best. You can always over dye darker, but you can't go backwards a lot of times. But you know, so there's two hints for you, Julie, that would maybe help you is to, if you're, you know, thinking that maybe the yellow might be too bright, like if you know weld can really get too bright, then maybe don't start with 50%, start with 20% or 10% even, and see, because you can always add more plants and then over dye again. Yeah,
it's kind of like that salt, right? You know, you don't want to have too much salt in your food either, so start out slow.
Right, exactly. Okay, so what are we up to here? Lisa, did you have, I thought I saw another question of yours that popped across the screen, but I can't see them once they're.
I was going to say, you know, for the Angora rabbit, like if it does get too matted, it might be easier to naturally dye it after you spin it into yarn, because then it's more stable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have not worked with it, so I know that the Pygora fiber can be fun to handle too, because it felts so easily. It felts right on the goat. So
yeah. And Lisa just reminded us that if anyone wants an Angora rabbit, there are some available at the rescue. So
right.
Yeah, you can't go, Janet. You're not allowed.
No, I'm not going.
And then also Ellen has asked, what form of iron do you use in your iron?
I did see that one come across, so I went to grab it. So this is what I buy. It's available on Amazon. Botanical Designs carries it, the Woolery. So any dye supplier has these little bags of chemicals, and this is the one that I choose to get. It's Alpha Chemicals brand, ferrous sulfate, some kind of hydrate. It's a 20% iron powder. You can also make your own, you know, if you have a lot of rusty nails around that you want to soak in some vinegar and water, it'll pull out the iron, and you can add that liquid as your iron modifier. So, you know, there's ways to get around buying things. You don't feel like you have to always go out and purchase something and have it, you know, delivered in the next 2 days. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Here's where we are on the matter. I'm trying not to burn myself.
We can't see it.
We can't see it though.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can turn.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this is where we are on the matter. And what I'm going to do is split this up and start modifying it, so you can see that the changes. So first I'm going to find something to put it in. See, I cleaned up because y'all were coming. Now I can't find anything. Isn't that how it works when you clean up for company? And I'm so glad my neighbor's not cutting the grass today or anything like that too. That would have been hard. Has anybody ever taken a natural dye class before in person and gotten to do this? It's really fun.
Yes.
When you're seeing that come out of the bath, are you saying to yourself a certain percent of this is going to rinse away? Or
Yeah, some of it will. With my reds and oranges, I often let them cure until they're almost dry before I rinse them, and that seems to hold a little bit more color on them. But I can show you right here what I was talking about with the superwash. You can see it quite clearly right there. Is that clear? Can you see this one over here?
Back it
Is
up just
much
a little.
darker.
Might be a little close.
Okay, how are we doing?
Good.
Okay, see the difference between the superwash and the regular untreated wool?
is the superwash on the right there? It's brighter?
Yes, it's the far side, yes. Yeah, it's hot, or I would pick it up for you. But yeah, this one over here is the superwash, and it really pulls more color. Okay. So, at least these aluminum rings do tend to cool down quickly, so you can handle some things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set this one aside because not only is it superwash, it's also a different weight of yarn than the other ones. So I don't want to confuse the issue a whole lot on that. I'm just trying to figure out like where to put things. I use these dough buckets for my rinsing. Can you see these? They're that's what they're like a food safe bucket. They come in like a set of 3 or 4 on Amazon, and I like them for when I'm doing things like this because I can just, you know, kind of sort out my yarn and be like, okay, that one over there, that's done. I'll push it aside, and then I'll grab another one, and I'm going to save one of these as is also, so that that one is this, you know, regular matter. And then I have 2 that I can modify. So I'm going to put one, I'm not going to put it back in there just yet, because the first thing I'm going to do, modifying does take a little bit of kind of fancy footwork here. So I need another pan to put some of this dye in. So I'm going to pour off some of my dye. I know you can't see me. I'm over here pouring dye into another pan. And put that back on there. Now I'm just going to grab my samples and decide what I want to do. So I think I'm going to try this. This is the copper afterbath. It makes it a much browner, redder shade of matter. So I'm going to try that. And what else do we have? Oh, you were talking about, Julie, I think you asked this about a lower, you know, lower grade. If you don't want the bright orange, this is 20%. This is a 20% matter. It's a lot lighter. Can you see the difference? I did 50%, but this is much lighter. And then this is the peach, which I think if I put yarn in the pot right now, we would get something like along the lines of this light peach from the exhaust bath. But I'm just using the exhaust bath to come up with some different shades. Okay. All right, this is copper. Copper is blue. It's a blue granule. It's also probably one that you don't necessarily want to put down your septic system or into your well. Oh, not your well, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. I'm careful about where I dispose of my dye liquids after I use copper because it is a heavy metal. So I'm just going to add, you know, just to be like a good teacher, I'll use a measuring spoon. Okay, so that I'm using like not quite a half a teaspoon to start with. Another one of those, you can add more, but you can't take it out later after you've dissolved this. So I'm starting with a half a teaspoon. If it doesn't quite modify it the way I want it to, I'll add more. And then what we're going to do is, okay, everybody remember this color now, okay? Because hopefully it's going to change. Live. I love doing live. Okay. So again, we will wait on that. But while we're waiting on that, in the other pan that I poured some of the dye liquid into, we're going to add a little bit of the iron and see the difference between iron and copper. So again, not going to add too much because I don't want to overdo it. Also, iron can degrade your fibers, so don't go overboard on your iron. Use, like, start small and use what you need to achieve the color you want. But the more iron you add in there, the more it's going to kind of abrade your fibers. Okay. The funny thing is too, well, not funny, it's just odd, that when you are doing these, some of them will require heat in order to change, and some of them will change without having any extra heat, just the warm dye bath. But I find that the metals, particularly as opposed to like washing soda or chalk, that they need a little bit of extra heat. So we'll have to share the stove here in a minute, but usually the modifiers don't take too long. Can you see? I'm not sure if you can see. I'm not sure where I am.
You can see it.
Okay. There we go.
Browner.
Yeah, definitely a browner orange. Great for your autumn shades. So let me again grab the, not that one. Let's grab the test. And yes, I do have things falling all over the place on this table right now. Just in case you heard that. Okay, here's, let's see if I can get them. Can you see that, or should I bring the camera over?
No, you can definitely see it.
Okay, so that was our copper bath, and I'm going to switch that out now. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take it off the stove and put the iron up there on the stove. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so we'll give that a few minutes to do its magic, and then we should have 3 shades of orangey red, delightful color, all the good things. And the next thing I will do is, now that I've had some time in the mordant, I have no idea how that happened. We'll go ahead and put this in the weld so we can do that one. totally missed the loop. Can you see that? Like, look, I totally missed the loop on this. I'm just waiting for it to cool so that it's not burning my hands. I think I have a very high tolerance to heat now, because I'm impatient and I always want to just dive in and see what's going on. Okay, there we go. All right, so they have come to a simmer. Normally I would prefer to mordant them longer, but weld is a pretty powerful dye. So I think that just the fact that we've got any mordant behavior going on at all is going to help it. The other thing is, some people, I have never done it this way, but I will tell you that some people will mordant at the same time. You know, like especially with some of the powerful ones, like your flower dyes they're pretty much no fail. You're going to get color out of boiling flowers. And they'll just go ahead and put the mordant solution into their dye pot and do it all at the same time. I haven't really felt the desire to do it that way, but hey, it's worth a try if you want to play.
And you're using alum for your mordant, did you say?
Yeah, let me show you what I get. I use alum and cream of tartar. I do a, based on the weight of the yarn that I'm going to use. So say if I'm going to mordant 100 grams of yarn, I like to do 12%. Some dyers do 10%, but I also reuse my alum mordant solution. So I do 12% so that there's still a good percentage left in the pot, and I can go ahead and do another batch by just adding a little bit more. So I do this, I get this delivered on my auto delivery from Amazon. You can buy bigger bags of alum from Dye Supplies. This is a, I don't know, I think it's a, 1 pound jar of alum. It's available on Amazon if you want to get it that way. Don't buy the little tiny jar in the supermarket unless it's like a one and done, like you're never going to dye again, because it's so expensive that way. And then I use 5% cream of tartar. And I buy this in a 1 pound bag too. I just transferred it into this little container because it was easier to spoon it out of there. So 10 to 12% alum, 5% cream of tartar. Dissolve that in your water, then put your yarn in, bring your temperature up to boiling. You do want to boil your, you know, like a hard simmer for your mordant. And then if you're not ready to dye, put the lid on, leave it sit there. Your yarn's all ready to go. Next time you want to go out and work with some dyes. If it's going to be a few days, pull the yarn out, squeeze the liquid out, let it hang dry, and then store it in a marked, somehow that it's marked that you've already mordanted it. Okay, what's going on here? All right, we've got some color change. This is pretty. Okay. Again, we have our test and our iron. There we go. Is that good? You can see. So the iron isn't really too much different than the copper. I have no idea where I put it, but I know we had the copper one here a minute ago. I know, really? I really can't find it.
It's in a plastic bucket. It's in a big.
Is it in a different bucket? It is. It's back here. No, it's not. It's in another. Oh. It's in another pan sitting back here.
Oh, okay.
I got it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, it's not too much different, but it is a little different. So here.
Is it consistent that copper and iron would only be a little different?
There we go. How's that? that good? You can see the 3 shades there.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So I'm going to put these aside. And like I said, I usually will just let these drip dry. I have a spot over on the other side of the porch that I can let them drip dry into a big pan. And then when they're almost dry tomorrow, I'll rinse them then, because it seems to preserve any of these red oranges a little bit better if I just let them do that. I'll be right back. I'm just over here. Okay. All right, so now we can swap out and put the weld together, and go ahead and ask questions if you want.
Jillian had asked, how do you discard of your metals infused dye baths?
I put it in a section of my yard that isn't near our septic or well, isn't near any neighbor's septic or well, and it's just kind of an area where nothing happens anyway. And I dump those dye baths there, and you know, they're not considered hazardous material, so it's not something that you need to be like, oh my gosh, I got to package this up and take it to the hazardous material disposal. It's not that level. It's like, if I was a production dyer, I would probably need a permit. I don't know that for sure, but if I was making a lot of dyed yarn using copper, I would probably have different standards, but I'm using such a low amount and it's so diluted that I just try to be careful. I wouldn't want to put it in my garden. You know, just kind of common sense type of things. I don't use chrome at all. That's something old time dyers used to use, a lot of other heavy metals to change their colors. I don't use any of those. I think chrome is very dangerous to work with. Okay, so you ready for some bright yellow? No. Yeah, I'm a little bit crazy over here with the, oh, this is pretty. Sorry, you can't see it. No, I will show you. Let's see if I can. So this is like instant. Can you see that? I'm gonna grab the tripod here and show you. See? Pretty. Yeah, it's really pretty. Okay, so I don't think this one's gonna take very long. So we'll just set that down in there. Okay, so who wants to hear about my mess up this morning when I was getting ready? I already shared it with Marion. Okay, good. I don't want you to think that I'm in any way a real expert. I just do this on TV. So, you know, I don't want anyone to think too highly of me. I have a lot of fun and I love to keep it real. And one of my favorite dyes to work with, and I leave it grow all over our property, is pokeberry. Okay, so y'all know that one, it stains on its own, right? But when you try to dye yarn with it, it can be a little tricky. And Lisa was at the dye day that I messed this one up really badly. And I had like a lot of people there that we were teaching. Wasn't that the day we taught together at Patty's, Lisa? Oh, I think they've got you muted.
Yeah, I think I had left by that time, so I didn't see any mess ups. So I will never tell because I didn't see it.
Well, luckily and nicely, I had other dye material with me, so I recovered on the fly.
Oh, good.
However, I was like, I wanted this to go really smoothly today, so I had some pokeberry in the freezer from 2019. I mean, this was pre-pandemic pokeberry. This was special pokeberry that I had saved, right? Like, you know, we'll never get this pokeberry again. So I wanted it to be all ready so that I could just wow you with the beautiful red color that you can create with pokeberry. But I'm also going to tell you that the same thing I did when I did that Frederick County Dye Day, Frederick County Sheep Breeders Dye Day, don't walk away from your pokeberry. Like I tell people this all the time. Don't walk away from it. I wrote it in my book. Like, don't walk away. Guess what happened? I walked away from it. So instead of a pretty red, I have a pretty brown.
Oh,
I mean, it's a pretty brown, but it's definitely not a pretty red. And there is one point, and I looked at it and I said, same thing I say whenever I mess up. I think it can go just a little bit further. It can't. It never can. When you see the red from the pokeberry, that's your point. Like, don't wait. Don't think you're going to get more red, because once you see red, the next thing you're going to see is this muddy orange and then this brown. So you get one shot at it. Luckily, pokeberry is pervasive everywhere. And if you have any, you can just go get more and do it again. I don't think I can really over dye this with anything because that's a pretty deep brown, but I can make a teddy bear out of it, so there's always some kind of redeeming factor of it. So
what weight to fiber do you use for the pokeberries? Is that a 1-to-1 if they're fresh?
I'm gonna see if I wrote a specific, I think I said 200. Let's see. A lot of times when I'm doing foraged materials, Lisa, I go by 5-gallon buckets. So let me just see. Sorry for the downtime. Just trying to make sure. Yeah, I don't really have a recommended amount.
Okay.
Apparently, I just usually write my recipe as a 5-gallon bucket, fairly compacted. So that fits in a nice big stock pot to boil it down. And I use a potato masher. I don't pick off the actual stems, and sometimes I don't pick off all the leaves. They don't have any color that you can use in them, but it just depends on my mood that day, I suppose. But you just add it all into the stock pot and then smush it and mash it and all. And the key to pokeberry though is, and you can read this recipe, it's on my website, it's also in both the books that I've got dye recipes in. It's vinegar. You make sure you have a lot of vinegar on hand, because you're going to not only mordant in vinegar and not in alum, you're going to mordant in vinegar. You're also going to add a lot of vinegar to the dye pot itself. So that's the key to getting the red color out of pokeberry, is a very highly acidic bath. I tried to add more vinegar when I saw that I was making a mistake. I was like grabbing the 1-gallon jug of vinegar going, no, but nothing's gonna bring it back, so it's okay. It's a pretty brown. Yeah, I'm losing for some reason I guess it's just because it's video. I'm gonna put the phone over on the other side of the room because it's battery's dying. So let me just go over here. This is going to be a little less ideal because I'm not sure. Okay, I'm here. Here I am. Let me show you a couple other books by other people, in case you're looking.
Janet, something happened to your
materials.
Janet, something happened to your audio. You touched
Oh,
your
did it?
you touched your earbud, and I don't know if you turned your earbud off, and then now we're hearing you through your computer. But
Okay.
that's better.
Okay. Yes, I think it's falling out of my ear. I think I must have hit it wrong. Here's the one book by mentioning her before, Rebecca Desnos. She is a vegan dyer. She doesn't use wool at all. But I recommend her only because she's very, very knowledgeable on natural dyes. Just, she won't talk to you about wool, but this little book is great for the subject of gardening for dyes. This is by Chris McLaughlin. It's about 10 years old. It's a great little book though. Lots of recipes and garden tips for growing dye gardens. This is one of my favorites for forage dyes. It's called Wild Color. Okay. It's by Jenny Dean. And this is by Rebecca Burgess. It's called Harvesting Color. This one she actually interviewed Carol Lee, who was the first person to figure out how to get pokeberry to actually work. So that was interesting. And then this book has some great charts in it. It's called Natural Color by Sasha Dorr. She's written other books too. I really like this. She also has projects in there that she's done with the dyes. It's kind of plant focused, as in she gives you a lot of info on the particular plant as you're going through there. So she's good. So these are my favorite sources when I'm like investigating a dye. And then just going to give us a shameless plug here for my my one other book. Well, it's not my one other book. I have a book on goats and a book on chickens out also, but this is my wool and animal fiber book. And I did put a few recipes in this book also. So there, okay. All right, I'm ready.
Hi, Janet.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kirsten. I work with natural dyes too, and I've really enjoyed seeing all your beautiful colors. It's great.
Thank you.
I wonder, are you currently dyeing with matter from your garden, or are the roots from yours? Yeah. Have you?
They're not.
Yeah.
I have. Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
nice.
But if it dies, you have to wait 3 more years for your roots to be usable. For at least 3 years for your roots to be usable. And mine got wiped out 1 year, and I have not been successful at getting it going again. I was
just going to say mine also got wiped out recently. And I think there was something, it was a couple years ago, and I had a nice bed, and there was some, it may have been too much water or something went on that I don't know if you had the same thing.
I seem to have like a not very green thumb, Kirsten. I love using the natural garden dyes. But I'll be honest, I usually end up, in order to do enough yarn, even for a small project, I usually end up going to Botanical Designs and purchasing or begging from friends and neighbors, that are better gardeners than I am. I just like to say, I keep my sheep alive.
That was what I was going to say. You put your energy in different places. We all have to. And I also wanted to say, I've used your yarn before. I teach fiber classes in the DC area, and I really enjoyed using your yarns in classes. So
thank you.
I always
so happy to hear that.
Yeah. So
that's wonderful.
Fun to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. And if you ever want to come out and play with dyes, just let me know. I'm love to meet more people who are interested in dyes.
I have a ton of matter. It's invasive at our house. So if anybody wants cuttings, they are available if you want to start over again, Kirsten or
I
Jen.
did. But yes, I would take you up, Lisa, because I and I think that's part of the thing to have an ongoing matter, but you do need to keep propagating and preparing for each successive year so that you're not starting.
Oh, I think that's really, I think that's a great offer, Lisa. Thank you. I will take you up on that also, because I think sometimes when you get a cutting from a strong plant genetic, that you have a better chance of it taking. I don't know why my madder didn't come up this year, but I had indigo that is not supposed to necessarily be perennial, but mine came back 3 years in a row.
Wow.
And then this year it didn't. And I was like expecting it, so I didn't buy any. And I was like, oh, well, that was fun. So, yeah. It's always, you're dealing with nature, but you can't.
Yeah, I think we could compare notes, because same thing for me. Mine always self-seeds.
Oh, really?
My indigo this year only in one, and I have had such productive beds. And this year I had only one bed return. Luckily I saved seeds so I could replant, but still it's not as productive as when it does its own thing.
Right.
And my friend in Silver Spring, she also, her reseeding was crap this year. So, yeah.
Well, we must have had a weird winter that they didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should have, a local place where we can share our, share our experiences, especially with, how weather affects our gardens, kind of on this local level. That's really interesting.
Yes,
To share
really.
information. Yeah. And to be able to share resources, like Lisa said, just, I have too much. Who wants it?
Right.
If you have seeds, and you want to, just like the whole seed saver thing, we can do that with dye gardens too, dye plants.
Yep.
No, that's true. We should definitely do that.
So all the great things that, Chesapeake Fibershed can, here's another project, not only, a farm to closet project. We could do, what, I don't know what we would call it, but dye garden project kind of thing too.
Right. We could actually dedicate it, start a new page on the website for natural dyers. So
I think we should. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can put those book suggestions down. I have a couple other ones that are great. And that Rebecca Burgess, she's the founder of Fibershed, and she has.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
She has that dye book. There's 2 dye books and the Fibershed book. So, yeah. All great.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent out there. A lot of people who have invested a lot of time and energy into this field, and I think it's great that there's so many people that are interested still in this, or coming back to it, because I don't know, I'm all about trying things the hard way, like.
Okay.
So let me show you the yellow. I tried to find a long power cord and I couldn't find one today, of course. So I have to disconnect to show you. But the yellow's pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I probably could modify it. You can see there was I don't know why that one patch.
Yeah, one looks.
See that one?
Yeah, it looks more yellow than the rest.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, because I did not leave the dye in here. So that is interesting.
That one maybe a superwash?
No, it's only part of one skein.
Yeah, it's like.
That's weird.
It is weird.
It's natural dyeing.
No, right. No, it's like
that's the beauty
whatever
of
you.
it.
Whatever you think might happen, it might not. I don't know. I'm getting more and more like okay with like sharing my mishaps with people, because I really want people to understand the nature of natural dyeing. You can find so much beauty just by playing around with this, but you also can, you know, have like the agony of defeat moments. Another one I had was I was doing a workshop for Mother Earth News when they were here in Frederick for a couple years. And I saved avocado pits, and friends saved avocado pits for me, because I was like, this is a great one. People, you know, Mother Earth News is all about like reusing, you know, recycling and using what you have. And so I was like, avocado pit dye is going to be a real hit. So I practiced it and it worked. And I was like, this is going to be great. And I got there and I forgot about the fact that iron negates the color of avocado. So the water from the fairgrounds well was so full of iron that we had zero color in the dye pot. And, you know, I'm like, it's great. You know, I don't know if people just think I'm funny or they're just like very forgiving, but, you know, people paid for the class and I was, you know, like kind of the edge of a nervous breakdown at that moment, you know, like trying to hide it. And one thing I always do, and I'll tell you guys this just because in case you do live things too, I always have a backup plan. And my backup plan always includes like logwood or madder or something that's pretty much foolproof so that I could recover. And I was like, well, and I couldn't even think at the time, like, what was the problem? Because I had my samples with me and they were pink and I couldn't figure out why we were getting no color from the avocados. But I just quickly shifted everything and said, well, we're going to do logwood instead because I don't know what's wrong with that, but we're going to go with purple, which is a crowd pleaser. And, you know, it's such a shocking, beautiful dye. And of course, everybody went home super happy because they took home their yarns and they were beautiful colors. But and then I started like trying to figure out what in the world went wrong. And I finally figured out that it was iron, too much iron. If I had had enough washing soda with me, I could have battled it by changing the pH, but I didn't know that at the time. So
now,
you know,
start with avocado. Get the no color and then transfer because
Janet, so is that where the pH strips come in then?
Yeah.
To test your water before you dye?
Yeah, if you are really having trouble, pH strips can give you a lot of information. So I like to recommend them, you know, just to have, because if you're just not getting what you think you should be getting, it could be your water, or it could be that you just need to adjust the pH for some reason. So
especially insect dyes, those are really pH dependent. So I know that for me, I wasn't able to get anything on cochineal except for like a lavender color until I started messing around with the pH, and then I could get the colors, you know, the nice magentas that I was supposed to get.
So did you do that with vinegar? Is that how you adjusted your pH?
No, you have to go the other way because you have to go, I put in soda ash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The washing soda is a great thing to have on hand for a correction. It's so strange sometimes, but even occasionally logwood, I need to add just a tiny little pinch of washing soda to get it to really be purple. I don't know if you've ever had that, Lisa, but it, you know, sometimes it's just kind of
gray.
And I'm like, yeah, let me just adjust this a little bit. And it only takes a pinch. Like as soon as it feels that pH boost, it goes, oh, I'm purple.
Yeah. A tiny little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, just keep in mind that same thing we've repeated so often today. If you're getting started in this is, start small. Because, if you had gone and dumped a tablespoon of washing soda in, you might have gone way too far and then thought that doesn't help, when it really just helped way, way too much. So, always add your modifiers a little bit at a time, because you can always add a tiny bit more and a tiny bit more. So, yeah.
So we've all been together for an hour and 45 minutes. I don't know how much time you have left and how much time others have. Janet, this is up to you if you want to keep going a little bit, or are we?
I am fine to answer more questions. I don't, unless you ask me something, I'm not sure what else I have to just spontaneously offer, but I am happy to talk about this longer if people want more information or opinion or.
Did you let us know how to get a hold of you? Are you doing any workshops around, or?
I am doing a live workshop. Oh, please pray for me, at Polyface Farm in Virginia in September 25th. I think it's a Saturday. Yeah, they only do their workshops on Saturday. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I'm talking with Patty Sanville about doing another one at her place, now that we are less restricted and we can, hopefully be outside and together. And let's see. Workshops.
And if people want your books, where should they go?
I have them on my website under the shop tab across the top menu. And you can also look on Etsy. And I also, if you don't like either of those platforms, you can just send me a direct message somehow and tell me, you'll PayPal me the money and I'll send you the book. I don't care.
And you can I know we can contact you through your website at timbercreekfarm.com.
It's timbercreekfarmer.com.
Farmer.
Yeah, there is a Timber Creek Farm, but it's not me.
Timbercreekfarmer.com. Okay, that's now in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I always get that wrong.
Yeah, it is Timber Creek Farm on Etsy, and it's Timber Creek Farmer on Instagram, and it's Janet Garman Timber Creek Farm on Facebook. So there's all sorts of ways you can hunt me down. Some lady called me from Florida recently because her duck was sick. And I was like, I didn't even know her. Like, I was kind of like, didn't really know what to do with that information, but I helped her talk through it. But I was like, I didn't know they could do that. She said, I got your number from Facebook. I was like, really? Because I thought I was kind of like, put those things in the private section.
Yeah, no, it's Facebook.
Yeah, I know, right?
Good.
Mm.
Well, Janet, does anyone have other questions for Janet right now?
You can always reach me. Yeah, you can hunt me down if you're struggling. Just let me know and I'll try to talk you through it. Maybe we'll find a new wonderful solution to a problem that we didn't even know. I'm trying to plug in again because I'm about ready to die again. But yeah, I get back to everybody who reaches out to me. It may not be within the hour, but I don't take anything for granted. I think people are important. So
thank you.
Try to be here. Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. This was such a thrill.
Thank you so much. And before we go, just to let people know, we're going to do another meetup on September 19th, and it's going to be for the Fibershed Clothing Challenge. If people are interested, we'd love to see you all there, and please tell your friends. Ellen, you're still on, I believe, and I think you have an event coming up as well.
I just want to make people aware that I'm going to the Hermitage Farm in Pittman, Pennsylvania on August 15th. They're having an open house, and it's kind of an interesting place where they grow flax and process it and spin it, and the two guys that run it are known as the Gay Amish. They tried to start a little commune for gay Anabaptists. And they never got anybody. So then they changed their name to the Hermitage. But anyway, they have tons of information about how to grow flax, how to process flax. And on August 15th is going to be their open house day. It's a good 3-hour drive, but I've recruited one other friend who wants to go. And if anybody else would like to go, feel free to contact me. I'll put it in the chat. And I also put in their really silly website. They have 2 of them.
I don't.
They have 2 of them, and one of them is called Flax for Sale, and that's where they put down some of their. They have a book called The Big Book of Flax. So I think it would be great if our group got some. I got a little bit more into plant fibers, because we start out with a good supply of people who are into animal fibers, which is great, but I think there's a lot to be said for
Yeah.
as well.
No, that flax.
Oh, definitely. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, at thehermitage.org. And so, just contact me if you want to like kind of caravan or just meet up. I have no idea. I've never been there before. So I have no idea what their annual open house is like. They have tons of vintage farm equipment. They initially wanted to start out kind of using colonial area tools to run their farm, and they have all the vintage equipment on how you ripple your flax and how you scutch your flax and all that. So, and
that's so cool.
And they also have their own YouTube channel if you want to go look and see some of their videos on how to grow and process flax.
Great. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well,
August 15th, Sunday, August 15th from noon to 4.
Great. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to conclude. Janet, thank you again so much for your time. Thank you all for coming today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marion.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.